This regular meeting of council to order. If I can ask everybody to please rise for the national anthem. Any disclosures of pecuniary interest in the general nature thereof? Okay, seeing none, we do have a presentation tonight, and I think everybody knows by now that each year at the fair we do a holiday contest, a holiday greeting card contest. So this year we have 2 recipients that are here with us, and I think it's a great idea. We started it, I think, at the beginning of the last term. And these cards go all over the place. They go to ministers' offices, MPs, MPPs, all over the region. So they get a lot of traction, and I think it's a great thing to showcase our young and budding artists from Wainfleet. So I will now call on them to come up. So we have Mr. Simon Van de Bell and Kaya Gaylord, and I think Kaya might be another second-time recipient, or somebody in the family, I believe, might have received this. So we have very artistic families. So I will meet you guys down here, and I think JT is going to do some pictures of us.
I sit many nights during the week before Christmas for about an hour before bed signing them all, and so it's great to be able to look at this artwork and know that this came from the community. So it's a real honor to be able to send these out. So thank you guys both very much. And do you want me in the picture too? Okay, so we're going to stand right here. So I'm going to stand in the middle, I think. Okay. We're going to see your face. Okay. Okay, all right. So I want to thank you both again, and thank you for coming tonight. And I want to thank the moms and dads for bringing them tonight. I really appreciate it. I know it's not the greatest weather, and so for making the effort to go, because it really is nice. Council can get a little bit serious, so it's nice to be able to do something fun like this with these guys. So thank you both so very much, and if we can give them a round of applause. Thank you so much. Okay, so we don't have any public hearings tonight, but we do have several delegations, and
Our first one tonight is Mr. Mark Drysdale, who's a Wainfleet resident, and he's here regarding the proposed exotic animal bylaw. So Mark, if you can come up to the podium, and there's a little button there. If the light's on, that means the mic's on. If not, just want to press it. And then, and the delegations tonight we're keeping them, like they're always 10 minutes.
Julian,
because we have so many, we want to stay within the 10 minutes. So whenever you're ready, Mark.
Yeah, there's only a couple of things I really want to go over here concerning this new bylaw that you guys that she's looking to put in place here. One is definitely, when you look at Wainfleet, and what Wainfleet has always stood for, and the reason that we moved here 15 years ago, is we like the country community. We like the east Wainfleet, just the general laid backness of this community. It's starting to feel an awful lot like that is going by the wayside, that's for sure. And I noticed when I walked in, the coat of arms out front said that it was basically our township, our heritage, and our future. I think we should all make sure we remember that and not let things get too carried away here as we bring city people in to tell us how we're going to run our town. I had a very disturbing thing happen on my property approximately 4 weeks ago. I had 2 police officers, 2 SPCA officers, a public health worker, and one of your township workers here, the bylaw officer, just walked past all of my no trespassing signs straight up my driveway into my shop to talk to me about a goat, or he called it a donkey, but a goat that was on my front porch, telling me that animal needed to be controlled. It wasn't under my care, this, that, the other. Really, I don't really care to get into that. That's just ridiculous. I think your staff needs to be directed when it comes to law. No trespassing signs mean exactly that, no trespassing. And if you're just going to start walking on people's property, I think council had better be warned that we're not going to allow that. This is just getting a little bit of hand here. The SPCA is offering to do all this stuff when it comes to the new bylaw. That they are going to be the ones housing the animals. They're going to be the ones that are going to help you enact this bylaw. As far as I understand, does Wainfleet not operate on a yearly contract with the SPCA? So are we under the assumption, or is the SPCA under the assumption that we'll just automatically renew their contract for the next 10, 20 years, or as long as all these exotic animals are still within the city timelines? Is that something that they're just expecting, or? I know, it's not really a question.
Yeah, usually when we do delegations,
yeah, that's
so
fine.
we can.
A little concerning there that they would just automatically assume that their contract will be renewed. I know for a fact that there's been many townships that the SPC has pulled out of once it becomes no longer financially viable for them to stay there. There's not enough money in them. Bruce Peninsula, for example, is one of the areas they pulled out of because they just couldn't make enough money. Another problem that we do have when it comes to, and the way this bylaw seems to be written is more towards us. I know Mark Tardif says it's not to do with our rescue, but it clearly is when you look at the way that it's laid out. A couple problems the township is going to have. Under the Endangered Species Act, you cannot tell people what they are allowed to and not allowed to breed when it comes to animals that are under any type of endangered species list. Most of our animals are CITES listed endangered species animals. We own 2% of the black and white lemurs that are left in the world, and we own 1.5% of all singing dogs that are left in the world. Overstepping your bounds, it won't work. I'll just tell you right now, the slim pickings that will be left that will allow you to farm to our property if you want, will be very few animals that at that point you may just not keep them. So that might be something you'd like to look into. Our facility is already inspected 4 times under the OSPCA, which is their zoo, sanctuary, that type of plan. That is something that we signed up voluntarily for because we wanted their input. We thought it would be a good thing to get into their community of people that they know, have their resources to look into some of the medical attention that odd animals do need. And it did allow us to hook up with a lady named Marianne Pryor, who was supposed to have a letter off to you guys, and I hope you received it before tonight. She promised me that she would have it to you. But we already get 2 inspections a year, unannounced, and 2 inspections announced. So we all didn't fall after that. So not quite sure what the new plan here will allow your bylaw officer here to do, but I don't think what we will be doing will really come close to what somebody who is trained in zoo animal care and the type of animals that we house on our property will really accomplish and will be accomplishing here. I don't even know what that means. Okay, I think I've pretty much covered it. But when it comes to these animals, one thing that I can point out, April, and I do have pictures here that I was going to put in, but I found out tonight I was not the time to be handing stuff, and I guess I was supposed to do it when I signed up for the delegation. You were out at our property. I have pictures of you here holding our animals. I have pictures of your children holding our animals. You know that there's no concern there. It's not my job for what I do to concern myself with the fear that your staff has of animals. That's something that's really the job of a psychiatrist. It's not something that we can do with what we do out there. If they're afraid of lynx, if they're afraid of primates, if they're afraid of lemurs, that's something they're going to have to look into on their own. I don't think it's up to the city of Wainfleet or the city to finance this fear that they have that they're going to get attacked by lemurs or that we're spreading disease. This is all really outlandish claims. You know that. You know the only parasite that we had come through our property had absolutely nothing to do with us. It came in from a dog in Wainfleet. It spread through rodents. You know it has nothing to do with us. You looked into that, and yet the general impression throughout the city is that there's danger in parasites, there's danger in health concerns, there's danger for people getting bit. You know there's no danger. That's not the concern. This is more to do with a way for these guys to come in. It's their fear. It's the fear of the way that things have been going here for 15 years. We don't agree with it. I was going to get more into the legal aspect, but I don't think I will tonight. I thought this was going to be voted on tonight, but from what I understand, it's going to be held off till at least January, right? That's about all I have to say. Thank you, Ms. Jess.
Thanks, Mark. Are there any, does the council have any questions for Mr. Drysdale? Okay, seeing none, and thanks for keeping it to 6 minutes. So we have a second delegation also regarding the proposed, oh, sorry, we need to receive Mark's presentation for information. So can I get a mover and a seconder? Moved by Alderman Hessel, seconded by Alderman Dykstra. All those in favor, and that's carried. So we have a second presentation related to the exotic animal bylaw, and we have Mr. Karadakis from West Lincoln. You know it's at Wainfleet, but at one point you owned property in Wainfleet, but you're from West Lincoln. So whenever you're ready.
Okay. Just have a plethora of things here before I begin. Okay, this is also on the exotic animal bylaw, but more on the legal aspects. And my own personal experience with her bylaw officer, November the 30th, at the public meeting where I was asked to leave, calling my input a tangent. It wasn't a tangent, it was input, it was legal input, and that should not have happened. So, I'd like to make a couple of demands, but don't take them the wrong way. They're not bad demands. When I was speaking with your bylaw officer, I was asked, I was told, not asked, that, so I was told that the township owns everything, all properties within its municipal boundaries. This is by your bylaw officer, and that we pay property tax because this is rent that we pay. We don't own our properties. I would like to make a demand that I be forwarded the legislative authority documentation that states that we are paying taxes as rent on our land, that we do not own it. And if all the lands are inside the municipality are owned by the municipality, I'd like to know when the Expropriation Act was come into play and the residents were all compensated for their properties that were expropriated. I also would like to I'll echo what Mark said about the donkey on the porch where it was really a goat. And in my opinion, that should not be I don't believe that the bylaw officer is qualified to be working in a rural community. They don't know the basic farm animals that they may find on farms or any properties in the township. And again, the Constitution was violated. The other thing that I like to point out is the bylaw is said to be enacted under the Municipal Act, under the sections 11.3, section 8 sub 3, section 103, and section 391. But that gives the power to create the bylaw. I'd like to see the legislative authority documenting that the Municipal Act gives you the power to supersede the Constitution Act under legal rights and under life, liberty, security of a person, section 7 of the Charter. Everyone has a right to enjoy life, liberty, security of a person, a right not to be deprived thereof, except in accordance with the principle of fundamental justice. And search or seizure. Section 8, everyone has a right to be secure against unreasonable search and seizure. We're being told that in this bylaw that people must register their animals. And by registering the animals, they automatically agree to let your bylaw enter the property, private property. And that is being called by your bylaw officer, at least on November 30th, that is obtaining landowner permission. This is unlawful. This is a very unlawful way of obtaining landowner's permission. This is permission under threat. If they do not register their animals, they will lose them. This is unlawful in so many ways. So, for you, I'll give you the legal definition of duress is an unlawful threat or coercion under one person to induce another to perform some act against his or her will. I'll go one step further and I'll point out the legal definition of undue influence. So it's persuasion, pressure, or the influence short of actual force that overpowers weaker power's judgment and free will and imposes the will of the stronger party. Again, I'd make a demand to produce the legislative authority documenting that the municipal act allows this to be imposed on the residents and can supersede the Constitution Act 1982 and the Criminal Code, Section 72. The municipality have a duty of standard of care. The definition is that the legal criteria against the defendant's conduct is measured to determine whether he or she has been negligent. Do you have a legal background? And did you seek a legal opinion to make that statement on November the 30th in a public meeting? And is duress and infringement on the Constitution Act lawful? And does the Municipal Act state it allows you to supersede the Constitution Act of 1982? And if so, I kindly ask you to forward me that legal opinion in its entirety. The Charter clearly states, Constitution Act 1982, Part 1, Canadian Charter of Rights and Freedoms, where Canada is founded upon the principle of recognized supremacy of God and the rule of law. Section 8, search and seizure. Everyone has a right to be secure against unreasonable search and seizure. So you have no lawful authority to enter anyone's private property, especially when extortion is used, to force them into registering their pets under those conditions. The definition from Black's Law Dictionary of extortion is the obtaining of property from another, including by wrongful use or actual or threatened force, violence or fear, or under color of official right. So take notice that any attempt to enter anyone's private property with no warrant under force can be met with force as so allowed by the Criminal Code of Canada, Section 72, by the private property owner, forcible entry and detainment. You can be arrested and detained and make no mistake about it. Mayor and council and your staff is there to provide direction. It is a requirement that you research this, in my opinion, unlawful bylaw and do your due diligence. Look up the legalities for yourself. Staff does not own you or control you. You are elected by the people, for the people, to serve the people, hence the term public servant. Your role is service, not dictatorship. If your staff is trying to dictate to you or your residents what you can and can't do, they need to be fired immediately. Staff, such as your bylaw officer, in my opinion, is a loose cannon. This was proven at the meeting on the 30th, and when they entered Mark and Joey's property. They infringed on constitutional rights. That puts the municipality in a liability situation. And an attempt to call this a safety issue also fails. Have there been any loose wild animals that have attacked anyone in Wainfleet? I will go out on a limb and I will say no. Is there a wild animal pets in Wainfleet? I will say yes. At some point they were wild maybe, but now they're not wild. They're pets, they've been domesticated. We do not have wild animals that are pets roaming the streets of Wainfleet. If a person has a dog, cat, goat, cow, pig, donkey, horse, snake, or primate or otherwise, and a person enters that person's private property and they get scratched, bit, or killed, that is not the responsibility of the township. That is the responsibility of the private property owner, and it's called occupier's liability. And it is a civil action under tort law or a criminal offense under the Criminal Code of Canada if that person is killed. For staff to claim to tell you it's the municipality's responsibility or liable in any way, or people's pets attacking a visitor on their private property is incorrect and outside the scope of the authority of the Municipal Act, making the bylaw ultra virus. The definition is beyond the legal power of authority, jurisdictional errors render the decision under ultra virus. The proper bylaw for safety of residents in a municipality might come in the form of an exotic animal bylaw that would be more appropriately created to administer stiff fines if a resident's exotic animal were caught on public lands such as sidewalks, public pools, public parks, or roads, or other public lands the municipality may own. These areas is where the municipality would be liable. So I would suggest to you that the Municipal Act does not give you the legislative authority to pass such an unconstitutional and unlawful bylaw, but rather restricts you from passing this unlawful bylaw. What the bylaw officer did not tell you is that the Municipal Act clearly states you cannot pass this bylaw under section 14.1. If you do, it also makes you personally liable, as the Municipal Act states. I can only suspect this is probably why I was told to leave on the 30th. It was not going on the 10th. So the law is the law, and the lower law cannot interfere with a higher law. As the Municipal Act states clearly, you are all aware of some, or some of you may be more aware of others of this when the wind turbine setback bylaw was created and lost when it was challenged under 14.1 when it came into effect. So conflict between bylaws and statutes, 14.1 is a bylaws without effect to the extent that any conflict with A, a provincial federal act or regulation made under such an act, or B, an instrument of legislative nature, including an order or license of approval made or be issued under the province, or the provincial or federal act or regulation. The Municipal Act clearly yet again, when it comes to obstruction, because I didn't see an obstruction notice, that you require a warrant and states that a refusal of the private property owner is not considered obstruction. I fail to understand the statement wherein the bylaw it states that obstruction is. Again, I would point to 14.1 of the Municipal Act and almost anything in the bylaw. I do have a case law that does show when the warrantless entry occurs and reaches the Supreme Court of Canada, it fails. It is a direct infringement on the Canadian Constitution Act of 1982. Part 14, enforcement of offenses and penalties in the Municipal Act. Section 2, a refusal of consent, enter, or to remain in a room, place actually used by a dweller does not constitute hindering, or obstruction within the meaning of the subsection 1, unless the municipality is acting under an order, section 438, or a warrant under section 439, or in the circumstances described in clause 437D or C. Allowing such a bylaw to pass would be in bad faith, unlawful, and unconstitutional. In closing, I would ask Mayor and Council kindly to strike down this unconstitutional, unlawful bylaw that violates Municipal Act's own restrictions and limitations of section 14.1. I would expect that your bylaw officer would be able to send me the legislative documentation I've been asking for within 30 days in email or regular mail, respectively. One example of doing your due diligence is there's an article here at News Now, came out December 1st. Grimsby Council should have heeded legislation. This is where Grimsby had a closed session meeting and found in violation, and they are blaming their legal counsel for it. So actually, under your Municipal Act, section 224, it says the role of the councils, and you do have the councilors' guidebooks, but they should have checked with that and done their due diligence. And at the end of the day, they are responsible. It doesn't matter what council or what their legal counsel said. But I do have a case law, if you like. It's a Fred Bracken case. I do have another one from Moyer, or Middlesex versus Moyer, to show that bylaw officers need to be aware of their authority and what their limitations are. Obviously, I'm going to say this one's not. And I do have another one where it shows force even used against police where there is no lawful authority is considered lawful because it's defending an attack.
Honest word.
And I'm done.
Okay, I gave you Mark's 4 minutes, so
Thanks. Sorry.
you ended out. Okay, all right, thank you. Does any? Sorry?
Would you like any of this?
Yeah, you can leave. You can leave that with Lee right here, and then you can have a look at that for sure. Does anybody from council have any questions for Stefanos? Okay, seeing none. Then I need a motion to receive his presentation. So moved by Alderman Dexter, seconded by Alderman Hassels. All those in favor, and that's carried. And then once he's done leaving that information, I will call up our third delegation to this bylaw. So tonight we also have John Greer, who's the Executive Director of the Welland SPCA, who's also here regarding the exotic animal bylaw and public safety. So whenever you're ready. He has Amanda with him.
So we're here tonight, we just wanted to run by council and the mayor our feelings as the Welland SPCA to provide your services. We do believe exotic animals are allowed to roam freely, are major risk to public health and safety. They're helping loose animals. So we're going to go through a little bit of a patchwork of the exotic animal regulations here in Ontario. So we'll start with an outline of what is an exotic animal bylaw, what's the purpose of such bylaws, the current state of the law in Ontario, and the local patchwork that we have here in the Niagara region. And I'd also like to share with the council and the mayor some specific incidents that we dealt with as the SPCA here in the region. So basically, exotic animal bylaw, New England orders regulating or prohibiting certain classes of animals. These animals are not native to the area. They are some kinds, but not necessarily venomous. They're not considered livestock. The purpose of such bylaws is definitely, the first one is public safety. Animals by their nature, this goes for all animals, but they're unpredictable, right? And with the natural defense such as venom or strength, pose a hazard to custodians and the public if they escape. So I think that's part of what we're talking about here today is if you look at Safari Niagara here in the region, their animals are contained, public can come in, they can safely view the animals. These animals are loose on the property and they do unfortunately escape. Disease control, I think, was mentioned by the two prior delegations. Public health is addressed. We do have zoonotic diseases, which basically means anything that can be transferred to humans or other animals. It is rampant when we bring in exotics. We don't know what kind of diseases and zoonotics we're dealing with. And part of the problem is when we go to our local hospitals, our local physicians don't know what they're looking for because they're so exotic in nature. One of the ones that public health are currently dealing with under disease control, there's nowhere in North America that we could actually have testing done, and we had to have the test sent to Sweden to actually get results back. So basically, it's a disease as well as foreign, and following the impounding of the lynx that escaped from ring-tailed branch in Wainfleet, the fecal samples were ordered by Niagara Public Health to test for species of parasite, and I can't pronounce it, but you can read it up there. And like I say, the closest facility to test for parasite was in Switzerland. So the purpose continued, animal control resources. I believe one of the prior delegations said it would just sort of roll over into, it's an animal control contract. We contract with the city, we negotiate that contract, whether we do exotics or not. It's a contract that we negotiate with the city. So I don't think that that really was an issue. The animal welfare, I think, was touched on earlier as well. So we do have a zoo inspector through the Ontario SPCA, Marianne Pryor. She does come down, she looks at the animal welfare issues on zoos and different things, roadside zoos. She does not look at containment. She does not look at the housing. She looks at the animal welfare issues. Just as a side note, the exotic pet trade in the U.S. is a $15 billion industry selling only drugs and weapons on the black market. The province of Ontario is very, very high in the exotic trade, and exotics are coming into the province all the time. The Wildland SPCA actually is one of the people that the Ontario SPCA come to for guidance on exotics because we work with the Toronto Zoo. We have people in the U.S. that we work with, so we actually go through all of that. So, and another thing, this is from the ASPCA, a lot of these animals are taken from their native habitat at young ages by poachers, and they'll kill a protected mother to get access to the young. That's just the trade in general and the animals coming into the province. This is how they're getting here. So now we'll go into the current legal state in Ontario. So there's 3 existing conventions on import and export of exotic animals, regulating them once in Ontario, but the problem is once they're in the municipalities, the OSPCA Act has provisions regarding the general care of the captive wildlife, but does not speak to one can possess. So that's part of the problem. What cannot be possessed is not through the Ontario SPCA Act. So currently in Wainfleet here, we have no regulation. Well, we do all venomous animals. It's actually quite extensive, the Wildland bylaw, as far as the keeping of exotic animals. St. Catharines recently actually put in 2013, and they did their bylaw, and again, they're looking at 2 meters in length. So it's not the position of the Wildland SPCA that people should not allow to be keeping exotic animals. It's to keep them safely, to keep the public safe, and also for our officers on the road in emergency services that they have to attend these residences where these exotic animals may possibly exist. That's one of our main concerns. So it's not that we're against people keeping them, we just want to be able to see it done well, and we want to see it safe for the public. In Pelham, there's no regulations regarding exotics, just in essence in the livestock. Halton County has a fairly good one. They did do the grandfather clause around its own prior to 2010 when their bylaw actually came in. They can keep them. They are registered, and we actually service Halton County as well, so we actually do that. And we inspect them yearly, and we look at their enclosures, and we make sure that the game and public are safe. Thorold, no, nothing there either, no grid schedule of grid anomalies. This is just to give you an idea of some of the things you can get into, and I actually did this case in 2011, and these are some of the exotic animals kept in the Niagara region. That's actually a picture of an Orinoco crocodile that was kept in a gentleman's bedroom, and I did, over a 6-month period, I removed 235 reptiles from a home development because the owner died suddenly. So that's another thing that council has to consider. Is there a contingency plan for these animals if in fact the owner actually dies? The picture in the middle there at the top are small containers of snakes. Some of these snakes, there's no venom for them anywhere in the world. They're so exotic, there's actually no venom for them anywhere in the world. So these are some of the things that people keep. June 12, 2016, the young girl received puncture wounds and scratches to her head and face from a lynx. That's a picture. We've actually taken those pictures again for our records. September 13, an alligator escaped from a residence in the city of Thorold that was actually run over by a car on Merrittville Highway. Again, Thorold has no exotic bylaw, so again, this alligator is actually allowed to be in the township of Thorold. So October 17, 2015, lynx was impounded on the west side of Port Colborne by animal control, so our officers had to go pick up the lynx, and it was in a parking lot in Port Colborne. The owners were charged for putting an animal other than the dog to be at large in the city under the Port Colborne bylaw, which has an exception. All charged parties were convicted in court. 16 who received a fine. Lately, this is the newest one, November 9, 2016, kangaroo caused a little bit of stir on Highway 3 here in Wainfleet, and again, it was captured and brought back. It was out on the road, and so in Wainfleet, it was a dog or a horse, it would actually be illegal because it's a kangaroo, it's not. So again, the Wildlife SPCA's position on this is we believe it would be unwise for council to wait for provincial framework on exotic pet ownership. The municipality should be proactive in its approach, and again, work with people who have the exotics here, but make it safe for the public, and make it safe for the people that visit these properties, and make it safe for the animals. I mean, let's not forget that some of these animals too, with large numbers of people coming through, it can cause distress in the animal. And I think we disappeared. That was, and it was just questions about that.
Okay, thank you for the presentation. Are there any questions from council members to John and Amanda? Okay, seeing none, thanks for coming tonight and for the presentation. And then I'll look to council for a motion to receive the presentation, moved by Alderman Hassels, seconded by Alderman Dykstra. All those in favor, and that is carried. Okay, so we have one more delegation tonight, and it is Mr. Norm Dashwood, Commander for the Port Colborne Marine Auxiliary Rescue, here regarding a request for funding. I'm thinking the microphone's probably on for you, so whenever you're ready.
So I want to thank council for having us tonight. I feel slightly out of place given all the delegations on exotic animals, and I don't talk about any of them, so sorry about that. For those of you, first I want to thank you for supporting our unit in gold sponsorship for our elimination draw earlier this year. It was a good success, it was a fundraiser for us, so we appreciate the support. A little bit about who I am real quick. I started with the Port Colborne Marine Auxiliary Rescue, which is, I'll give you the details, search and rescue for the year here, in 2013. A year later, I was captain on a boat, and a year after that, I was the unit commander. Achieved a couple of medals, and search and rescue is really one of my passions, so probably one of the best people to get up to talk about it, so at the end when we have questions, I'll probably be able to answer most of them. Sorry, I got to figure out this. So, an introduction. For those of you who haven't heard of the Port Colborne Marine Auxiliary Rescue, or POCMAR, as it's called, it's a 100% volunteer organization, registered charity, dedicated to search and rescue. It's part of the Canadian Coast Guard search and rescue family. What that means is, for the Canadian Coast Guard, some years ago they decided they could save money by having volunteer groups provide search and rescue services in areas where they didn't have vessels stationed. On Lake Erie, the closest vessel stationed this end of the lake is in Port Colborne, which is about an hour and a half to 2 hours from Wainfleet shores. Our coverage area is 220 square miles of Lake Erie. We do 24/7 emergency response to the boating season. 100% lives saved on the water, that's our mandate. We do have limited funding resources. And so that's kind of what POCMAR is. If you look at the map on the screen, that shows you our coverage area. It goes from the Grand River to the Niagara River and out to the US border. It's a pretty significant area to cover. We do it with 2 vessels and 50 volunteers. And we're part of the Central and Arctic region of the Canadian Coast Guard. And if you look at the orange section of that map, that's what Central and Arctic covers. POCMAR is the busiest unit in the Central and Arctic region. And when I get the statistics, you'll see we are pretty busy. So, brief history. We were formed in 1988 and became a member of the Canadian Coast Guard Auxiliary at that time. In 1995, we became a charitable organization. In 2000, we were able to build our primary vessel, POCMAR 1. And in 2013, we built our secondary vessel, POCMAR 2. POCMAR 1 is a 35-foot steel cutter, custom-built overcraft, and POCMAR 2 is a 24-foot stand-up jet boat. Hopefully, we haven't had to come up and rescue too many of you, but you may have seen them from shore. If you take a look at the pictures there, our first boat's in the top left corner, the Blue Knight. Top right corner is the Baja that became our primary vessel at some point. And then when it was deemed that that wasn't really an appropriate response vessel, we built the 2 at the bottom. So POCMAR 2 is on the left and POCMAR 1 on the right. So our unit's role in the community. Search and rescue is obviously what we do and what we train to do. So we go for vessels and persons in distress within our coverage area and sometimes beyond. We maintain a professional training standard for all our members to provide effective search and rescue response. We maintain a friendly professional reputation with the community and show a strong presence by community participation. Some of you may have seen us at the Wainfleet Safety Day. We have a group there. We try and get out to most of the communities along Lake Erie. Different events. Safety events is obviously our preference. We go to schools. We do touch a truck type events where we bring the boat out. We're at the Seaway Mall in Welland for a week in the spring. Whatever we can do to help in the community, we certainly want to do that. We work alongside and assist other emergency response services too, such as police, fire, the U.S. and Canadian Coast Guard and other agencies. We train with them, we participate with them. We promote boating safety. It's something we used to do a lot more of, and now we're getting back into, helping boaters understand what their needs are in order to be compliant with the laws and to have the right equipment on board to make sure they're safe. But we're not enforcement related. So our members receive no reimbursement. They do it because they enjoy going out and helping people and getting out on the lake. The unit is reimbursed an hourly rate for search and rescue passes. So the Canadian Coast Guard Auxiliary pays us stipend for the use of our vessel, which is about $125 an hour. It doesn't quite cover the fuel that the boat uses. We do receive a small annual amount from the City of Port Colborne, and we've just started receiving a levy on slip rentals from Sugarloaf Marina. We also rely on our own fundraising activities, which we've ramped up in recent years. When we get tasked out, we're tasked by the Joint Rescue Coordination Center at CFB Trenton. All search and rescue activities for Central and Arctic Canada are dispatched from that location. They activate a paging system, and our volunteers respond day and night. Cox and duty crew respond to the call, complete the tasking, and they range from anything from mechanical breakdown to overdue vessels to drownings. There's a good number of cases where we get out and manage to get people in before they drown, but sometimes it's inevitable. So statistics for 2016 were remarkable, a lot higher than normal that we normally see. We had 46 emergency response calls and spent 96 hours on rescue operations out on Lake Erie. We saved 61 lives and over $500,000 in property. We put 425 hours into training and 250 hours into community involvement activities. Compare that to the last 28 years. We've done 871 emergency response calls in that time. Approximately 1,644 hours of rescue operations, 1,461 lives saved, $13 million in property saved, 8,525 hours of training, 5,650 hours of community involvement. That's all volunteer. Take a look at our rescue missions. This is just 2012 to 2015. It's a bit of a task to plot all this out, but that's where we're at right now. You can see we go everywhere within that area, and a lot of our calls are off the Wainfleet shores. So the ongoing costs to operate our unit, we spend approximately $12,000 a year on insurance. We spend $10,000 plus on fuel, and we spend between $10,000 and $20,000 annually on maintenance. To run our vessels, they've got big Caterpillar engines in them. They require a lot of maintenance to make sure that they're ready for the boating season, that when someone needs us, we're able to go out there and be there with them. We also have about $150,000 in aging equipment that needs to be replaced over the next few years, and we're working on plans to do that. But as you can see, it's not a cheap operation to run. So our needs, the things that we're here to talk about, supplemental funding. So with our average expenses in a year running around between $35,000 and $40,000, and our income from funding sources in average year approximately $30,000, we run a slight deficit there. And we run with money, a little bit of money in the bank when we manage to build it up, so that we can offset years where we're off. We're trying to replace our aging search and rescue equipment on our vessels, navigational electronics, life jackets, tow lines, things like that. And one of the things we're looking for that's not a monetary aspect, something I asked the council to consider if they have any contacts, is heated indoor storage for our vessels. All the maintenance work is done in the wintertime, and right now they're done in the parking lot of Sugarloaf Marina. It can be quite rather cold and rather difficult at times to get that work done, and all the work is done in general by our volunteers. So our ask of Wainfleet is an annual funding request of $6,000. In 2017, we put that towards life jackets for our crew members, dock lines and tow lines, and vessel maintenance activities. This will allow us to improve the safety for our volunteers, our passengers. Each color represents the year that they were from.
And I guess the other question, you said how many lives saved. Were there any fatalities?
This year, I believe there was not any fatalities, and the year previous there was 2. Oh, no, there was 1 fatality this year.
Okay, any other questions from council members? Okay, seeing none, I appreciate you being here and presenting to us. So I'm going to look to council for a motion to receive, but also to refer this to the budget in the new year in January. So can I get a move by Alderman Dexter, seconded by Alderman Conk? And I'll call the question. All those in favor? Okay, and that's carried. So thank you very much. Now, we have the exotic animal bylaw later in the evening, and I know we're just basically receiving it for information and then moving it to the January 3rd council meeting. But since everybody's still here, I wondered if council would be willing to waive the procedural bylaw to move it up to now, and then that way if we have any questions or discussion, we can have that. And then after that, I was just going to take a quick recess. So can I look to somebody to move, so moving Alderman Dexter, Alderman Conk to waive the procedural bylaw to move that report up. Any discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor? That's carried. And then, Meredith, if you want to read that.
Bylaw Enforcement Staff Report, BESR 004-2016, regarding the proposed exotic animal bylaw and the recommendations contained therein be adopted as superior.
And I need a mover and seconder then for that report. Moved by Alderman Conk, seconded by Alderman Gilmore. So now that's out on the floor. So does anybody have any questions or discussion or comments? Alderman Hessels.
Yeah, I'm just wondering, did we get any legal opinion on this bylaw from our legal counsel?
I'll look to staff. I see Mark moving the microphone closer, so I'll have Mr. Tardif answer that.
We have not received legal advice. This bylaw has been taken from 3 other municipalities. It's pretty much, with any bylaw, you just go to different municipalities that already have a bylaw in place and cut and paste. There's no sense in doing anything real. If we like to get legal opinion, we can so do so, but other municipalities have this bylaw enacted already.
The OSPC, or PC, I guess it was, what I heard from, they look at animal welfare, and I guess the local ones, they look at animal welfare, but they're concerned about housing too. I see if you're going to look at the housing part of it, like I don't know where they would have the what is right and what is wrong for housing. If the animals are taken care of, good and they're in good condition, I would say that would be good enough. It just, I don't know, I'm kind of seeing like there's trying to take too much control on how people do things. And like I say, I think Wainfleet should kind of relax a little bit. I know we got, maybe there is a little bit of a safety issue, but to be so specific, you know, it even says one place where animals definitely on a property, you gotta clean up. But if it's your own property, like it's your own business, like why are we? So there was a lot of things in there that I see that are being way too hard line, I guess. Like it's none of our business really. So I don't know. It sounds like the two groups should get together and come up with a really good compromise. Is kind of what I'm hearing tonight.
Any other questions or comments from council? Alderman Dykstra.
Madam Mayor, I'm just wondering, what sort of role does, in regards to native species, I guess, what sort of role does the Ministry of Natural Resources or Canadian Wildlife Service, what do they have to say regarding size? I mean, we're talking now native species. Is this something that's not captured in their bylaw, or do they have any sort of input on this?
I know they don't have any input on it. There's, I believe, only 3 MNR officers slated for this area of the region. So they're very scarce, kind of possibly rely on municipality to come up with the stuff themselves. They are available if we do need them for assistance. But as far as exotics go, I know that they only deal with native species.
I believe that any native species that are kept in captivity have to be inspected by the MNR at least once a year with a permit.
Madam Mayor, if it's a native animal, I don't believe it's allowed in captivity. But that would be enforced by the MNR. They have their own rules, and it supersedes ours.
Okay, any further questions from council members? Okay, seeing none, so the recommendation again is to receive the report and then that it be considered at the January 3rd, 2017 council meeting. And will we, in the meantime, be getting, I can't remember if the comments were included. Is it possible to get comments included from up until now and from now until then? Maybe with, I don't want to make more work for you, but I think that would be helpful to council members, comments included from the public.
There was no comment or filled out at the meeting. However, we have got some emails in. And currently right now we are working with the Agricultural Society. They just need some clarification, so we are working with them to help them clarify some issues that they might have.
Okay, perfect. Okay, so if there aren't any other questions, then I will call the question. All those in favor? And that's carried. Okay, so now I'm going to look for a motion just to take a quick recess. So if I get a mover from Alderman Hassel, seconder Alderman Gilmore, we'll just take a quick 4-minute recess and then we'll be back.
Take care, right? All right.
Suddenly got nice and quiet. All right. So now we're on to, I would say it's my favorite time of the night, the mayor's remarks, when I get to chat away. So I'd like to start off by introducing Jason Culp is here tonight. He is our new drainage superintendent, so we want to welcome him. I'm excited to have him on board. And then we also have Adam Cross here, who is our new manager of corporate services, treasurer, and clerk. So he's a multitasker for sure. So we want to welcome Adam and thank you for being here. So I'll move right into mayor's remarks. So the budget is done at the region. I'm sure everybody followed that intensely because it's really exciting, riveting stuff. And we did add a 1% infrastructure levy, so I know some people at the region didn't support that, but a lot of the mayors who have done it in their municipalities supported that, and I think it's a good thing it's going to make a small dent in addressing that infrastructure gap at the region. And I also had the pleasure of meeting with the newest and youngest MPP in Ontario, Mr. Sam Oosterhoff. He was here on the 25th of November, and we all know we're going to be moved into that riding in 2018, so I wanted to make sure that I got a chance to talk to Sam. He came out and stayed for quite a while, so I brought him up to speed on issues like the floodplain mapping, the wind turbines, kind of where we are with that, and just all the kind of challenges we face in the rural municipalities. And he's very well aware because he was born and raised out in West Lincoln, so it was a pleasure to meet him. We had Christmas in the Village at Marshville. That was the last Sunday of November, and it was very well attended and a great day, and we had great weather, and it was good to see. I think we get a lot of people coming in from outside the municipality, but then it's an opportunity to see people that you don't get to see that often. And Mike and I attended a CAO and mayor's meeting this past Friday in Niagara on the lake, so it's the first time we've done that this term. So it was, I think, all of the CAOs. We had a couple mayors missing, and I know they talked about, I couldn't stay. We all had an opportunity to talk about what was going on in our municipalities, and as you can imagine, listening to all those politicians, that went way longer than it should have. So I wasn't able to stay for the full meeting, and I never did ask you how long it went, so did you spend the night, or no, it was okay. But it was really neat. Like I went first and was able to bring them up to speed on what's been happening in the municipality, but it was good to hear what was going on, because we don't always get a chance when we're at the region. We're in and out. We don't really get a chance to talk, so it was good fellowship. I had the opportunity to do Santa photos at the library on Saturday for non-perishable food items, so that was really good. We had quite a few kids, so again, nice opportunity to see people from the community. The last regional council meeting of this year is this coming Thursday, so tune into that live stream. I think it'll be exciting. I know there's going to be some interesting stuff happening. And I wanted to mention that the office here in Wainfleet will be closed from Friday, December 23rd at 2 p.m., I believe, until Tuesday, January 3rd, which is also the day of our next council meeting. And the mayor's levy, we are having the mayor's levy again, and it will be held on January 8th. We've confirmed this at Concessies from 1 to 4 p.m. So just a reminder, we're rotating. We decided this term of council that we'd rotate the mayor's levies instead of having them here in the fire hall, or Betty Conk, corporately Conk, Alderman Conk hated the Christmas tree burning. So just because it was cold. So we decided we wanted to showcase our local businesses. So the first year we had it at the 2x4, last year we had it at the Wainfleet restaurant, and this year Concessies has graciously agreed to have us there. So I encourage everybody to come out to that. And I want to wish everybody a very Merry Christmas and Happy New Year. And I also want to mention, and I know Alderman Conk had mentioned it on Twitter today, there's a lot of stuff going on regarding the Niagara Peninsula Conservation Authority and I know last night at St. Catharines, there was a big delegation and there were several people, including a local MPP, who were there to ask St. Catharines to pass a resolution to reach out to the MNR and the Premier about an audit. And so I know that the MNR has come back and said, I believe there was an article about it, that they can't ask or request an audit. So tonight I am going to, under notice of motion, bring a motion forward to, as a board member, to request an audit. Like I say, there's been a lot of talk about it, so I know that there was a big delegation that had gone to the region a while back asking for an audit of the MPCA. I had supported that, but it didn't pass at the region, and then now we know that it has gone to St. Catharines to ask for this, and that did get supported, but again, I don't think it's within the MNR to go back and ask the MPCA. So as a board member, I think there may be an appetite now at the board level to look into something like this, and at the end of the day, nobody has gone to the actual MPCA and asked them. So I think it's time. The next board meeting is in January, so if council will support me on that, I'll be bringing a motion forward later to support me on going and asking my colleagues for an audit at the MPCA. So we will do that later on in the evening. So those are my mayor's remarks, and I will now turn to Meredith for the adoption of the minutes.
That the minutes of the regular meeting of council held on November 15th, 2016 be adopted as circulated.
So I need a mover and a seconder for that, Alderman Gilmore and Alderman Dykstra, and then I'll look to the clerk to comment on the minutes.
So I can just bring your attention to other business. There was a motion to reconsider Fire Staff Report 6, 2016 regarding the Wainfleet Fire and Emergency Services Operational Review. The draft minutes reflect that that was carried. After further look into our procedure bylaw, it would need a 2/3 vote of the whole council in order to pass. We did not meet the threshold, so therefore that has been defeated. Therefore, we need a motion to amend those minutes to reflect that change.
Okay, so can I look for a motion then to amend the minutes? So moved by Alderman Gilmore and a seconder for that, seconded by Alderman Dykstra. Any discussion on that? Alderman Hessels?
Could you tell us when the change came from 2/3 to, from majority to 2/3 of council, when that change in our procedural bylaw happened, and if we were informed of the implications that that change would have made?
So, question?
I believe it was 2 months ago that we made that change.
Through you, Madam Mayor, to Alderman Hessels, I don't have the exact date on when council reconsidered their, apologize, I don't have the old procedural bylaw to pull what the exact wording said on that, but council did approve a new procedural bylaw. I do believe you're correct at sometime within the last 2 or 3 months, so that's when potentially that change would have been addressed through that report to council.
I guess further to that, I know it was a change, it was a majority before, and it changed when we did that. But there too, I think we didn't know the implications, and it wasn't brought to our attention. So that's just my comment on it. I do have some issues with it, but I know it has to go the way it is, but it just, I have issues, because it always was a majority, and we just changed it maybe without knowing the implications. Maybe under new business, I don't know, or sometime in the future, I might bring it back, we go back to the majority instead of 2/3.
Alderman Dykstra?
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I guess my only comment is, or more of a question is, why wasn't it identified when we did vote that night? Why did we find out what after the council meeting? Just wondering. Is it something that staff overlooked?
Madam Mayor, yes, it was an oversight of staff, and after we went back and looked at the procedural bylaw to make sure that we were in fact adhering to the proper process, it was something that was brought to to our attention and we brought it forward to us.
So then protocol, I mean, the process, I do recall from that night, any discussion that we were going to have regarding that fire staff report was to be referred till tonight. And in your words, you said that discussion needs to stop, we will deal with it tonight. So because we were not able to bring that report back, what point we thought that report at all? We can't.
So through you, Madam Mayor, and maybe the clerk, the deputy clerk can speak more, she's got the procedural bylaw. But yes, it could be discussed at a future point if a member of council who voted in, maybe I'll let the deputy clerk, because she's got the wording in front of that. But yes, it could be reconsidered at a future time, but as long as 2/3 of council support that, which would be 4 members need to support the reconsideration.
And just to clarify, in order to ask for reconsideration, would it not have to be a member that originally voted in favor? Could not be somebody that voted against.
Through you, Madam Mayor, to all, so that's correct.
Okay, any further questions or comments? Right, seeing none then, I'll call the question, so it's just on the amendment, then we'll vote on the minutes as amended. So I'll call the question on the amendment, all those in favor? Opposed, if any? Okay, so then the minutes are then just left the way they are, I guess. It was defeated.
Sorry, I was
Yeah, so it was,
looking at the procedural bylaw to make sure.
Yeah. so it was defeated, so then we just approve the minutes as they are, and then the minutes are not correct, is that, okay? Yes, go ahead.
Through you, your worship, to all of council, this is more of a procedure issue. The motion has been defeated. The fact that you're not approving the amendment doesn't really change the fact that it was defeated.
Alderman Conklin.
Madam Mayor, thank you for that clarification, Meredith. However, I think with the way the vote that it's more of a kind of a tiny little protest on how this all played out. I think that's basically what it is that we three are objecting to. As Alderman Hassel's pointed out, I don't think we were informed on when we passed the actual bylaw changing from majority to 2/3, just exactly what the ramifications were going to be. Having said that, however, I don't recall bringing too many reports back for reconsideration. It doesn't happen very often here in the fleet. We tend to pretty much agree on most of the reports that are brought to us. So again, it's just a tiny little protest on our part. But thank you so much for letting us do that.
So are there, I don't want to belabor the point, but does this leave things, and I think what happened, we're kind of in this predicament is getting back to trying to avoid the motions on the fly. And I know it's, in council, we got to do what we got to do, and not everything has to be, in advance notice, but I think that's where we've kind of gotten ourselves into this. So I totally get the protest, but I just want to know, is this procedurally, I don't know what the word I'm looking for, it just seems untidy, I think is the word that or we're good just to approve it and leave it as is. It just doesn't really reflect what happened.
Through you, your worship, all of council, that is our official document, these minutes, so they do need to be correct. Council, this is your procedure bylaw, you have the authority to waive it at any time, which would also require a 2/3 vote, so if that's what you decide to do, that's up to you.
Okay. I was going to suggest perhaps deferring the minutes until we could get further information on whether this is an issue, but maybe it's not, so.
As the clerk indicated, it doesn't change anything anyways. Maybe it's looks maybe messy if you read the minutes, but I would say it doesn't really.
So you're saying public record. Okay, and doesn't matter that that's, okay, no, that's fine. All right, so I'm gonna call the question on the minutes as they are. All those in favor? Opposed, if any? So Alderman Hessel's how it's just the minutes have not been amended, that was defeated, so it's the minutes as they are. So you're supporting it, so that's, so you three supported it, and us two did not, so it is passed. So the minutes are as they were, incorrect. Okay, so we'll move on then to the November 23rd minutes.
That the minutes of the special meeting of council held on November 23rd, 2016 be adopted and circulated.
Okay, I need a mover and a seconder for these minutes. Moved by Alderman Dykstra and seconded by Alderman Hessels. Are we good with these minutes? Seeing no questions or discussion, all those in favor, and that's carried. Okay, now we'll move into reports.
That administrative staff report, ASR 43-2016, regarding elected official title change and the recommendations contained therein be adopted and circulated.
Mover and a seconder for this report, moved by Alderman Gilmore, seconded by Alderman Dykstra. So I think it's a pretty straightforward report. Are there any questions or discussion on this report? Alderman Conk.
Madam Mayor, to be perfectly honest, I think we have way more pressing things to be concerned ourselves with than changing from alderman to councillor. I really don't support this particular report. I don't see any validity in it. We like to say that we in Wainfleet are unique. So why not keep the uniqueness with the term alderman? That's my 2 cents.
Any further comments? I just want to clarify, I think this was mentioned by a constituent to an alderman, so that's why it was brought forward, and it was just on the list of staff, just checking things off, because I know we all tend to call and make requests and everything, so this was just one of those, so just to clarify that for you. All right, so if there's no further questions, I will call the question, so it's that the report be received and council update their current title as alderman to councillor, so I'll call the question. All those in favor? Opposed, if any? Okay, so that's defeated. All right, so now we will move on to the next report.
Administrative staff report, ASR 44-2016, regarding the Firefighters Association arena rental fees and the recommendations contained therein be adopted and circulated.
Mover and seconder, moved by Alderman Dykstra and seconded by Alderman Conk. So this one is to receive and then support the request. So any questions or comments? Alderman Hassels.
I wonder, this never came as staff reports before. Is there a reason why it's a staff report now?
I will let Meredith speak to that.
Through your worship, to Alderman Hessels, when you approved your procedure bylaw, there was also a correspondence policy attached to that, which stated that any type of financial request would be coming through council through a staff report for consideration.
Okay, all good? So I will call the question. All those in favor? And that's carried. And now we'll go on to the next one.
That administrative staff report, ASR 45-2016, regarding the 2017 insurance renewal and the recommendations contained therein be adopted as circulated.
So a mover and a seconder for this one, Alderman Gilmore, Alderman Conk. I don't know if staff wanted to speak to this. I think it's pretty self-explanatory. Alderman Dykstra, you had a question?
Through you, Madam Mayor, I just wondered why the one insurance company did not respond. Were they contacted and they did not respond? Were they not previously our provider?
Through you, Madam Mayor, to Alderman Dykstra, yes, these are the 4 that staff are aware of that are common to provide municipal insurance. For whatever reason, Franklin Company decided to respond to our request.
Alderman Conk.
Through you, Madam Mayor, I'm just curious how BFL can provide the same level of insurance, I'm assuming, for $55,000 less. So how is that possible?
Which staff would like to speak to that?
Through you, Madam Mayor, that's something that they would have to determine on their own. Usually in a bidding type of process, that tends to drive prices down.
So we're going to continue, so we're not getting any less for less amount of money, we're getting the same level of service we currently have?
Through you, Madam Mayor, yes, based on my knowledge of what the evaluation committee went through, there's no decrease in level of service.
I just said to Mike, I think it's almost like, if you get a little ticked off with your car insurance and you threaten to leave and then they go, oh, no, wait a minute. And I think it was that same kind of, so it's nice to know then that we can get some savings with the same company. Okay, any other questions or comments? Seeing none, I'll call the question. All those in favor? And that is carried. Now we're on to the last ASR report.
Administrative Staff Report, ASR 46, 2016, regarding the organizational review number 4, and the recommendations contained therein be adopted as circulated.
So I need a mover and a seconder. Moved by Alderman Dykstra and seconded by Alderman Gilmore. So any questions on this one? Alderman Hessels.
I believe there's a previous agreement with the Fire Association. Have any changes in that? And I guess the way I see it, it's Article 20.1. There has to be a 90-day period of notice or something. I don't know if you're familiar with it, or, but I just picked up the agreement, and that's kind of what I've seen. So can we legally change this without notice?
The CAO.
Through you, Madam Mayor, I'm sorry, Alderman Hessels, you need to be clear on what you're referring to.
It's Township of Wainfleet collective agreement between the Township of Wainfleet and the Wainfleet Volunteer Fire Association, January 1, 2015 to December 31st, 2018. It's 20.1. The agreement shall continue in full force and effect of the day it was ratified until December 31, 2018, and for a further period of 1 year, unless notice is given by either parties of the desire to delete, change, or amend any of the provisions contained herein within the period of 90 days prior to a renewal date. Should neither of the parties give such notice, this agreement shall be renewed for a 1 year period. For a period of 1 year. It's got the operational chart.
Through you, Madam Mayor, just bear with me, I wasn't aware of this question, so just. Which article was that, Alderman Hessels?
It's the agreement between the Township of Wainfleet, collective agreement between the Township of Wainfleet and Wainfleet Volunteer Firefighters Association. On the last page, it's got the organizational chart.
You referred to the organizational chart when you referenced the clause. I apologize if I was aware this question was coming. I could have been better prepared, so if you can bear with me. You just read a clause within the agreement. Yes, I do see here that you referenced the organizational chart.
This was dated 14th day of December 2004.
Yes, but you referenced an exact article in the contract, I thought. Did you not? You just read something.
The organized, okay, yeah, that was 20.01. It's duration.
Yes, so through you, Madam Mayor, that particular appendix was attached as a reference document to this particular collective agreement. And we have not changed. All we've done is we've added in, under the fire chief, the assistant chief that was approved under the organizational review.
Yeah, I just see that it's a change of structure. The organizational structure is going to change. Organizational chart.
Yes, through you, Madam Mayor, the structure has been appendicized to the agreement as a reference, not as a component of the agreement.
I think when we were working on the agreement that yes, it was a side thing happening because they wanted to talk about structure. So I think Mike's right that it is an appendix. It wasn't actually part of the agreement.
Yeah, through you, Madam Mayor, in collective negotiations, it is very, I've never seen it where a labor organization has a say on what the organizational structure is. That is up to the administrative or the managerial and the council to do that particular thing. It is attached here as a reference piece. And if you also recall, we also brought a report back in early summer that exactly spoke to that particular thing. So as it relates, it's a reference piece to this particular agreement. Nowhere in the agreement does it say that they need to agree to the changes to the organizational structure, save and except positions that are in the agreement or in the association rather.
Okay. Other questions from council members? Alderman Conk.
Madam Mayor, I'm confused, so you just need to clarify for me, help me find a way here. You speak to the structure going from 3 assistant chiefs down to 2. However, when I look at Appendix D, we have directly under Manager of Protective Services, Fire Chief Assistant 1, and then slightly to the right, we have Assistant Chief 2. So when we add 2 and 1 together, that makes 3. So I'm confused. Are we doing 2 or are we doing 3?
Sorry, through that's a good point. No, it means Assistant Chief 1 and Assistant Chief 2.
Oh.
Okay, there's only 2 of them. That doesn't mean that's the 1 plus the 2. So that's a typo in our rule.
Okay, and so just one more question. On page 4, I'm just wondering if you might be able to tell us exactly how, I'm assuming this is going to be called a 2-district model, rather than a 3-district model, yes, no?
Through you, Madam Mayor, that is something that, as we said in the recommendation back in the organizational review, that's a recommendation that the chief needs to bring back to council to clarify.
Oh, okay. So now I'm really confused. So can we, is it out of the realm of speaking to this report to ask how in detail this is going to work with 2 volunteer assistant chiefs? I'm not getting any of this. I'm not understanding any of it.
So, Madam Mayor, maybe I'll ask the fire chief to address your question directly.
Through your worship, Alderman Conk, the idea of the structure in terms of I'm assuming maybe I can ask for some clarification with regards to the assistant chief's position. Is that specifically the function that your question is relative to, or sort of the overall concept?
Well, I guess what I'm asking is, in the previous report, you talked about that at that time it was 3 assistant chiefs and their responsibilities and $6,000 that they're going to be paid to do these duties. However, what I don't understand is exactly how they're going to accomplish all of the things that you laid out as administrative duties that they're going to have, as well as, I'm assuming, responding to fires or any calls for that matter that we get. And how does these two assistant chiefs relate to moving down the org chart to the platoon chiefs and the captains and the lieutenants and the firefighters? Like, so do these people, the platoon chiefs, the captains and the lieutenants, do they report to the assistant chiefs? Any issues that they have? And then those two gentlemen or women, whoever, report directly to you what those concerns are? Is that exactly how this is going to work?
Thank you, I appreciate the clarification. And maybe the first step I'd like to try to address is, our goal here is to provide a strong management team and a strong structure throughout the organization. One of the opportunities that I believe that exists is being able to incorporate and involve more people within our organization in having input in what we do and how we function. So part of the role of those assistant chiefs was to lead organizational committees to be able to help us develop some of the structure, some of the processes, some of the systems that we would be implementing within the organization. So part of my approach would be to have them help us develop some of those things, and some of those things may come out as being, here is a process. It may be that a firefighter would report a situation or a certain deficiency in a piece of equipment to a station captain, who may then take that to one of the assistant chiefs who might be responsible for the apparatus and maintenance component of our organization, filling out within the structures. That may come direct to me, it may be a notification to me, depending on the level of severity. If it's a major repair that may be required, that requires immediately taking something out of service, as opposed to something that may be a minor repair. It might be something that the crews could look after themselves, and it just becomes a notification that this has been done. So there's a number of opportunities here that I think that we can strengthen our organization under this system.
So, thank you for that. It's a little bit more clear. So, my question to you then is, has any of this been disseminated to the troops?
We have not had the opportunity to present this model and the concepts outside to the organization. Really, I think that one of the things that we need to do is have the direction and the support of council. This is the model that we're going to attend to. I think that is where the structure will come from, and the leadership that we'll be able to provide from that. So before I'd be willing to sort of start to reach out and start to implement some of these things, I think that we want to make sure that we're confident that the council is supportive of that direction.
Thank you.
Okay, other questions from council members? Alderman Dykstra.
Through you, Madam Mayor. Maybe it's just a clarification for me, but I'm just wondering under the protective services organizational structure, it's listed as manager of protected services / fire chief. Is it safe to say that in the Niagara region, all 12 municipalities, fire chiefs are called managers of protective services / fire chiefs, or are they called fire chiefs? I just wanted a clarification on that.
Through you, Madam Mayor, to Alderman Dykstra, it's a mixture, because some fire chiefs are just fire. So what happens in this particular instance is that if the fire chief is absent, that means that somebody that would be in the capacity of an acting fire chief would be responsible also for bylaw, chief building official, etc. So when a fire chief has other areas of discipline under their jurisdiction, it is common to be called a manager of protective services. So for example, Allen and others have that particular title as that. I don't have the exact title from all those municipalities, but it's a mixture of.
Okay, if I may continue. So that's the clarification of the title. Now, as it looks with Assistant Chief 1 and Assistant Chief 2, it looks like they're going to be our fire chiefs, and we just have a manager of protective services above them. As the fire chief indicated in Alderman Conk's questions, it's going to be the day-to-day business stuff that's going to be up to the assistant chiefs. What role does the fire chief, that's getting paid as the fire chief, have besides administrator? That's where I would like the clarification.
Through you, Worship, Alderman Eicher, your question, your comments sort of went a little bit in two different angles, I think.
Clarify for you?
No, I'll try to address them both if I can. One sort of angled out more onto sort of the day-to-day operations side, and one angled out a little bit more on the emergency response side. I think if that's, would that be accurate?
Yeah, that would clarify. I mean,
Okay.
I want to balance out between manager and fire chief. When are we going to be fire chief and when are we going to be manager?
I wish I could. I could define something in black and white that may help address that, but unfortunately, there's a lot of gray that's through that. I think part of what I explained in addressing Alderman Kong's question is, I think there are certain areas of the organization, certain things depending on the level of the issue that may be involved, exactly where that may come. There can be things that can be done, light bulbs changed that at a bottom level that don't require the fire chief to be involved with them. If there's activities where it's going to require major pieces of apparatus being out of service, then those are probably activities that the fire chief needs to be aware of in terms of doing that. This is about building a strong management team and a strong structure within the organization. It's not a unique structure by any means. Certainly is one that I would say would be common throughout the fire service across the province, in rural communities as well. So in terms of the emergency response side, I think that certainly is one area that I would say that I would like to be able to step out and become much more involved on the emergency response side. Part of that is making sure that we have a strong structure in place to be able to support everything else that's going on as well.
If I may continue. I apologize, Chief, if I feel like I'm putting you on the hot seat, but I have to look out for the 6,500 residents of that community. The way this looks to me is we have 3 people doing one job. And I just wonder how this community can support this. I mean, that's not for you to worry about, but that is for me to worry about. So I apologize. I'm just wondering, can we amend this staff report to remove Appendix D and deal with Appendix A, B, and C differently?
Well, through you, Madam Mayor, there's what you're talking about is under, if you want to move into closed session, what you've talked about is under the CAO bylaw, you've given the CAO, myself, the authority to put the management structure, the organizational structure in place as it relates to moving the organization forward. So as it relates to this, I mean, if I'm understanding you, Alderman Dykstra, you have some concern around the 2 assistant chiefs. See, this report isn't asking for approval of the organizational structure. Right? The organizational structure, by virtue of what council has given the CAO in my bylaw the authority to put an organizational structure in place. What this report is doing is summarizing over the last 8-9 months. This is the 4th organizational review report. This is summarizing all of those reports that have been approved to show council that we now have a firm, solid structure in place that's committed through the process that was initiated.
So to clarify, what would you like to discuss in a closed meeting that we can't discuss in open council?
What I'm suggesting is if you want to go into closed session and talk about what you've authorized the CAO under my bylaw, when you brought the CAO on board, then that would be closed session material for discussion.
Okay, any further questions or comments regarding the report? They seem none, so I will call the question on the report. All those in favor? Opposed, if any, and that's carried. Okay, so now we're going on to drainage.
Drainage staff report DSR 9, 2016 regarding the 2016-2017 municipal drain program and the recommendations contained therein be adopted as circulated.
So I need a mover and a seconder for the drainage report. Moved by Alderman Gilmer, seconded by Alderman Conk. So this one's to receive for information. Any questions though for Alderman Hessels?
Yeah, I did talk to Richard Dan, and I think there needs to be some clarification on one of the drains.
Okay, so we'll look to Jason.
Through Madam Mayor, there is a clarification needed in the summary of work done in 2016. Under Bridgewater drainage.
Jason, can I just, I'm sorry, ask you to use the mic because I know they can't hear us on live stream if we're not using the mics.
Through you, Madam Mayor, in the 2016 maintenance work table, the Bridgewater drain was listed as complete, and that is actually an error. It should be listed as canceled. There were some issues with the engineering reports, and it wasn't actually completed this year.
Okay, any other questions or comments then regarding the report? Seeing none, I will call the question. All those in favor? And that's carried.
That Public Works staff report PWSR 33, 2016 regarding shared drainage agreement and the recommendations contained therein be adopted as circulated.
Mover and a seconder. Moved by Alderman Gilmore, seconded by Alderman Conk. Any discussion or questions on this one regarding the shared service with West Lincoln for the drainage? Alderman Hessels?
I believe we're 2/3 and they're 1/3, and so is that what compared then to, or am I correct?
Look to Mr. Nam.
Your worship, to Alderman Hessels, yes, that is, we will be looking after 2/3 of the salaries and benefits, and they will be looking after 1/3.
That would be shared appropriately in that way too, like, how do you time it, like 30 hours there, or?
Through your worship, to Alderman Hessels, we have an open, we have a discussion with West Lincoln. There may be times where we could use the additional assistance if we have a major project or a major issue taking place in Wainfleet. And we have a mutual agreement that at that time, we could keep him here to continue our work, just as well as if they have a major contract that's going on in West Lincoln and they need him a couple extra days. It is tracked through wages and benefits through the payroll, and we bill them accordingly. So it does state that we will be making sure that by the end of the year, it does work out to 1/3, 2/3.
Okay, any further questions from council members? Seeing none, I'll call the question. All those in favor, and that is carried. And we'll move on to the fire staff report.
That Fire staff report FSR 8, 2016 regarding Burnaby Fire Station replacement and the recommendations contained therein be adopted as circulated.
I need a mover and a seconder for that report. Moved by Alderman Dykstra, seconded by Alderman Conk. Any questions on this one? No? Okay, let's move on. Alderman Conk.
Through you, Madam Mayor. I have a question with regards to a few things. The first being, do we need a separate, it had to be a holding tank for, because it talks in here about washing, disinfecting the gear, whatever, so you can't just throw them in a regular, whatever washing machine you have if there's things that have to be decontaminated and put that water in a regular septic tank, because we know that the septic water goes out into the septic field, which goes out into the ditch, out into the lake. So my question is, are we going to be having some sort of a separate unit where that water can be saved and then pumped out later to go wherever?
That certainly was one, when we go through the design build process, really what we're doing is putting a lot of the direction back to the builders themselves to do some of the research of some of those materials. Certainly, that is something that we did in this process, as we identified that may be a requirement. I can tell you that that was something that we had encouraged in one of our addendums to the design builders to make sure that they had clarification of that, whether that needed to be done. The Ministry of Labor has some components, as well as the Ministry of Environment, in terms of some of those areas, and could provide the proponents with some of that recommendation.
Because we have the issue that we have along the lake shore, I'm concerned that definitely, it shouldn't be a maybe, it needs to be a must be looked after. Because the last thing we want is for having decontaminated stuff going into septic tanks that ultimately go out to the lake. So if we do anything, that seems to be a no-brainer. So that's one comment. Under background, under the second paragraph, it states that these findings were taken to the Master Fire Plan Implementation Committee for review and recommendation. When did that happen? Is that recently?
Through you, Worship, that was in May, in the May 2015 part. That references a report that was done for council at that point in time.
So am I to assume then that at that point in time in May that this committee was not aware of the $2.8 million price tag?
Through you, Worship. Actually, at this point in time, I would suggest that no one was truly aware of what the price tag or what the project costs may come in at. It's my understanding that there had never been a formal budget established or approved by council.
Through you, Madam Mayor, if I may also put some more context in this. So council will recall back in January 2016 that they approved the construction of 2 fire halls on the existing site in Wellandport and on the existing site in Burnaby, right? So that report was initially to be brought forward to council in November of 2015. It was amended to be brought forward in January. So council will recall during this last calendar year, that was the direction. So then upon, immediately after my start on March 21st, we brought together a report, the former chief and I brought a report together highlighting that it was the will of council to look at the Burnaby site first. So then we were directed to go out and get an RFP initiated to determine what that would look like and bring back to council for consideration. In that report in April, it highlighted a number of things that's been referenced in this report related to the criteria about a training room and offices and it being an alternate EOC, those types of things. As part of the implementation or the development of the RFP, there was consultation because we had Kalos Engineering on board to help us with that. There was consultation with the Fire Master Plan Implementation Committee at that time related to the scope. We also did meet with the firefighters and the association related to scope. So what that did is it helped develop the RFP that we did put out to the street for competitive bids. It wasn't until about 2 weeks ago when the competitive bids were open that we were brought to the attention of the $2.8 million price tag that you see there. So to your question, no, the Fire Master Plan Implementation Committee would not have been aware of that price tag through that process.
Thank you for that explanation. However, I think perhaps council was reticent in not informing council or staff, I'm sorry, of figures that we may all have had in our head. And I think I can speak for at least 3 of us on this council. $2.8 million isn't it? So that is, I think, our fault for not being clear on what it is that we may have wanted with these things in mind. And I understand that the thinking is that if there was something to happen here in the village, the fire hall that's currently in the complex would probably be affected, so that you need a second place to have, someplace for people to go to or a command unit to go to. So I understand that although I don't really think that we need to spend $2 million to accomplish that. So I'm just throwing it out there that I think perhaps council, we all need to say what kind of a dollar figure that we're actually looking for, because this seems a little high to me.
Okay, well, I've got some comments, but I'll hear from the rest of council first. So Alderman Hessels, you kind of waved at me for a question?
Yeah, well, kind of going on Betty's thing there, I think we gotta even kind of look at what kind of fire hall we need at certain areas, because my thought was these outside halls were gonna be satellite halls, basically store fire trucks and washing facilities and whatnot. It's not a training room and all that, because we don't want everybody from one end of the municipality training on the other end of the municipality at any given time. So response times to any given call at any certain time would be a long time. This sounds like a hall that would be built in town here. It's not what I see as a satellite hall. So maybe we have to give it a little different direction on what type of hall we're looking for. And the other thing is, Fenwick built St. John's Hall, which I think is pretty equivalent to this for $1.4 million in 2014. So I have some questions with the prices that came out. I know they built a one in Fenwick for 2.9, but it's 12,000 square feet. This is 7,000 square feet. The price just seems outrageous. That's $400 a square foot to build this hall. I don't know, I do a little bit of stuff myself, and I know there's lots of things I don't know about in construction, but when I seen that price for that kind of hall, it seemed way overboard. I think we need to redo this whole thing and come up. I'd say we have the implementation committee there. You put them in place for a reason. I would like to see them guys come back to us with what we really want. I know the consultant did his thing, but this implementation committee people, they're from here, business people, they understand what we need. I would feel a lot more comfortable getting a recommendation from them.
Okay, other questions or comments from council? So, I'm not shocked by these comments at all. So, but my concern is, so we have a report in front of us. Staff, did what we told them to do. They did the RFP that's come back as this. And the suggestion is to receive this report and then flip it over for budget consideration. So I'm wondering if council has the appetite to do that, because ultimately we approve the budget. So that doesn't mean if we continue to flip it over to the budget process, then we can hash it out. But maybe we need to put an amendment on it to have it go back to the fire master plan. I don't know if the committee wants to touch this again. So I think there's some things that we need to clarify and discuss. But my fear is that this will just kind of get lost tonight. So I'm looking to council for suggestions, but I'd like to see something referred to the budget, and then we can go back and have a discussion about costs. Alderman Hessels.
You do have options here, right on the very bottom. There's 3 options. Maybe council directs staff to examine alternative options, which is kind of what I was referring to, and including the budget that council deems appropriate. I think we kind of have a little bit of an idea what we want to spend on a hall. So I could probably go with that one, but again, I want the implementation committee to be very involved in this process.
Are you making that amendment then?
I would say that, I don't know if we're going to put a price tag that we're comfortable with. Obviously, none of us are comfortable with 2.8. I think when you did the thing last council meeting, did we kind of go with our own thing of from 1 to 1.5? And I think there were different ones. times and you get different rates or whatever. So I would be comfortable in saying in between that 1 million to 1.2 or something. We could look, get that as a direction and then they can come back and see.
Okay, so your motion is to direct staff to examine alternative options, including a budget of, you're saying 1.2 million?
Well, maybe I should say 1 because of Ohio.
Okay. I'm going to look to, okay, go ahead.
Sorry, so just for point of clarification, what council is suggesting a budget of 1 and 1.2 million. So just to be clear, there's a construction budget, but then there's an overall project budget. So we need to be clear that in this particular case, so just Alderman Hessel's just that when you're talking about $400 a square foot, actually what you need to do is take the 2.3 million divided by the 7,000 square feet. So it's about $324 a square foot because you have to factor in hard construction costs. So we just need to be clear on when you're suggesting $1 million or $1.2 million on your budget, are you talking construction costs or are you talking all project costs? Because there are other costs related to developing fire halls or any other type of building, just besides construction costs. There's site servicing, there are project management fees, there are building permit fees, those types of things. So we just need to be clear on what council's looking for.
And I would say project cost was the one in Glenwood there, that was the project cost was 1.4. And I think even that hall is more than what we need as a satellite hall. Maybe we've never really, I've always talked that satellite halls are not major halls. So I think we gotta look at that part of it. And then I think if we went that way, we could probably get them built for $1 million or so. So, and I would say the project cost, it's got to include everything, just like this 2.8, it was a project cost. Right? This 2.8 was a project cost. So I would say the project cost, because we don't want no surprises. I mean, another 100,000 here and there, you know.
So just so we're clear, council, if I understand the direction to staff, should this approve, is that we find $1.8 million in savings based on the recommendation that you've got in front of you. All ends, just so I'm clear, Alderman Hesses, on what you're looking for. We just want to make sure that we're doing what council directs us for budget consideration.
You're saying savings, I think you have to look at a whole different type of hall as what was recommended in here. So I'd say almost kind of start from scratch. So you're never going to get a 1.8 million savings on a hall that was like that. So
Just through that, so then just so council's aware, council is of the opinion that this hall will be constructed in 2017. If staff need to go back to the drawing board, it will not be at least until the latter part of 2017 for council to consider this at best. So just so council's aware of that, it gets approved in the budget, just so that the community and others are aware of that. And that's fine, if council is directing us to do that, we're happy to do that, but just so you're aware, by referring it to the budget gets approved in January per the schedule, and staff then need to go back and basically restart the process. As council's aware, it's taken us from January till now to get through that, so it does take some time. So just so council is aware of that by moving this forward.
Actually, I want to ask a question to that. So you're saying this could take us a whole, to go back and do another RFP, and I guess essentially a redesign then would be, or a modification of the design, that we're going to be looking at a whole other every year.
Through you, Madam Mayor, so yes, back in April, council gave us direction specifically what they wanted to see in this report, the square footage, 7,000 square foot building. If council is now saying to staff that they want it to be $1 million all in, then yes, that is an absolute complete redesign, which then means it's going to take another 5, 6 months, even 7 months to look at that. Then you've got approximately 6 weeks back out on the street. So it could be at least, I mean, I'm speculating here, but it's going to take the better part of 2017. And council may or may not see a shovel in the ground for 2017 for the firewall. Staff will have to work through that process, but that is the implication potentially of this particular decision, yes.
You said we seen a design of the 7,000 foot square building, or when I seen that 7,000, that was the first time I heard we were putting up a 7,000 square foot building.
No, through you, Madam Mayor, there was a report brought forward to council in April that highlighted the exact 7,000 it talked about. We referenced it in this report. That particular motion back in April was actually approved by council by 5 votes to none. That was the impetus or the reason that staff went out with the design that we did, because that's what we were directed by council to do by passing of that resolution that the chief has referenced in this report. So we were as surprised as the price tag, but we went out based on what we were given direction by council. If council wishes to consider something different than the direction that was given to us in that report, ASR 02-2016, then we would need that direction to go back and see what council can get for the value of $1 million all in project cost. But that does absolutely positively mean a complete redesign and the necessary lead time to do that.
Alderman Gilmer?
Madam Mayor, perhaps it'd be helpful, I too was caught off guard slightly by the cost, and I think perhaps it'd be helpful to if we could figure out how we got there, and there's got to be a lot of things built in that obviously none of us considered, but there must be some reason why at this particular site that it's so much more than at another site of comparable size. So I'm wondering if there's a list of things that got us there, or I mean, I realize you said that we agreed to that in April, and so I think it'd be helpful to know why we're in this position.
Madam Mayor, I'll maybe look to Mr. Mann or to the fire chief to speak specifically to the site conditions that the Burnaby site does present for council.
Through your worship, to all members of council, the Burnaby site would provide a very high cost for site servicing. Because of the bedrock and the elevation of the bedrock, they would have to bring in a lot of fill, because you still have to have the tanks. The size of the tanks all have to be basically underground, so we have to be building that site up in order for drainage as well as to protect the tanks. So there is a lot of issues with the site and the bedrock that's there. There are some potential savings, but like I said, a lot of that breakdown as far as the costing, in the RFP, they don't tell you, they don't give you the budget for the project. I mean, they basically said this is the cost, what it would be if we build this exactly, and included in this is what you get for that price tag. So they don't give us a budget line item in the RFP, but the site itself would pose some challenges definitely for any type of construction, especially making it post-disaster.
If I may continue, Madam Mayor. So, if we just went back and downsized the project, I mean, so you're saying there's some site-specific costs that are built in. It's hard to quantify what that number is, so I understand that. I guess the problem is, at this point, we have at least one, maybe two vehicles that are potentially supposed to be purchased this year that won't fit into any of our existing buildings. So if we put this decision off, then I assume that we'll have to put off the vehicle purchase, because I don't think we're going to park them on the side. So I'm wondering, is it possible to go back and try to just simply downsize where we're at without this significant delay of 2 or 3 quarters of the coming year, when we need to have buildings prepared for the trucks that we want to
So through you, Madam Mayor, let me attempt to answer that question, and I'll refer to maybe to Adam and or the fire chief. So Simply what we're looking for in the report, as council's aware, there's absolutely no mention of any fire station construction in any of our budgets in the township. So in order for council to consider their construction in a holistic, in the entire package, what staff are looking for, whatever direction council wishes, in order to set your tax rate and what budget you would like to, council's going to be considering that budget early on in 2017. So failure to have some kind of number for a fire station construction in the budget for consideration in 2017, it could mean that council, once staff, if directed, goes back and looks at all of this exercise, council could be making a decision on the fire hall in isolation of having considered the entire budget. So what staff are recommending is that whatever the number might be, that there needs to be, in our view, a number put into the budget so that council can take a look at that. So if council's number is a $1 million all project, that is the number that gets put into the budget for consideration. Council will deliberate and debate the budget over the course of January 31st being the night that has been scheduled for council to potentially create their budget. From then, we would then need to come back to council with a subsequent report that said, now that you've given us budget approval, we now will go out and look at an RFP, and here's what the approach that we would recommend. Council then would say yes or no to that particular report. Through that process, we would definitely engage with the Fire Master Plan Implementation Committee through that process. That may not happen until February or March. Council then would say, this is what we would like to do. Then we would need to develop the RFP, and then we would need to go to the street. So at minimum, regardless of whether council, whatever price tag, that process is still going to unfold over that course of that time period. So I don't know if that's addressed your question, Alderman Moore.
Okay, so further questions or comments or direction we want to go with this then? Like I'm wondering, and I'll come back to you, Alderman Hassels, in a minute, but I'm just wondering about, changing the dollar value, amending the dollar value in this report. I don't know, and then and leaving it at that, just amending the dollar value. What would the, I know you've just run through it again with Alderman Gilmore, but.
Sure, through you, Madam Mayor. So in order for council to consider the construction of a fire station per direction that was given back in January to build on a Burnaby and a Welland site, there has been no budget, there's been nothing put into the official documents for council to consider as it relates to setting long-term budgets. So in order for council to properly, in our estimation, to look at their budget for the 2017, if council may choose to this evening to say, you know what, we don't want to build a fire station in 2017, don't include it in the budget. That would be our direction, and staff would follow that direction. If council does want it in consideration for 2017, staff need to get some kind of direction on the appetite of what a budget dollar would look like for their consideration during the month of January when you undertake your budget deliberations. Failure to give us a budget direction, council will not see that in their budget for 2017 because staff have not been given direction to do that. If that direction isn't given to do that, then council could be dealing this as a one-off later off in 2017. Staff would not recommend that. Staff are at the mercy of council to say, this is what the appetite is. If the direction is to go out and seek $1 million all project costs in, then staff will go out and see what we can do and report back to council to say this is what your $1 million will buy.
I have something in my mind of what it looks like. I know, Alderman Clark, you've said that when you get something in your mind, and even if it's explained a certain way, you're still picturing what you have in your mind. So I'm looking to council then, see if we understand this. Alderman Conk.
Through you, Madam Mayor. I keep coming back to option 2. Council directs staff to examine alternative options, including the budget that council deems appropriate. It was put in there for a reason, I'm assuming. Otherwise, it wouldn't be there. And I said at the top of my previous comments that we made a mistake, we council, by not saying this is the figure that we have in mind. It is not $2.8 million. And I don't believe that giving a figure this evening to be put in our budget is going to create any lasting harmful effects by not having the fire hall built by the end of next year. If it doesn't get completed until, March of 2018, well then so be it. At least we're going to build the darn fire hall. Is that not what the goal here is to build the fire hall with a dollar figure that this council is deeming appropriate? I mean, I realize this fire hall is not in the best of shape, but it's not going to fall down around our ears in the next 14 months or so, correct?
Your worship, to Alderman no, it won't fall down. We'll make sure that it stands up on top of the trucks.
Okay. So we still have an operating, functional satellite hall. We now just need to decide what dollar figure that we're happy with and do what we need to do. I mean, put it in the budget so that we talk about it. I will not support $2.8 billion being put in our budget. I just won't.
Did you say billion?
But it's like $2 billion.
Yeah. I'll go to Alderman Dexter, but I just wanted to comment. I'm a little concerned though with how we're going to come to an amount. I know that we've had $1.2 million thrown around, and so it again kind of speaks to that kind of random on the fly, and it concerns me that I don't really know what the master plan implementation committee is thinking about this. So I don't know what the answer is right now tonight. I know Alderman Dexter wants to speak to this, but I want to caution council. I'm a little bit concerned about just kind of throwing things out. I think we all agree that 2.8 million is concerning. So, but I think to just start kind of throwing things out and doing stuff on the fly might not be a good option either. So I'm hoping Alderman Dexter will have some wisdom and shed some light on this. No pressure.
Obviously, the flavor council table tonight is option 2. The issue that I have with option 2 is what everybody else has. What number do we use? If we were to take a hypothetical number and plug it in for budget time, it still is up to council decision and regulate, correct?
Through you, Madam Mayor, all budget decisions are at the virtual decision, absolutely.
So just to clarify, so if we were to use a hypothetical number, that doesn't mean you're going to come back and give us a staff report from tonight saying that, well, you guys said you wanted $1 million fire hall. I'm just saying we could plug in a little bit higher number, see what that would do with our tax levy, and then give us a little wiggle room. I know 2.8 million is not the right amount for Wainfleet, but what can we get for $1 million? I don't know whether that's really enough either. So I'd like to see what all added costs and overages and everything else. I know being part of the fire committee, implementation committee, we kicked around some ideas and some numbers, but it seems like every time you put an RFP out, it's a municipality, they see dollar signs, unfortunately. So I would be prepared to make an amendment now to option 2 with a budget of 1.8. That would be all in, everything, the whole total cost, park building.
So option 2, 1.8. Is there a seconder for that motion? Seconded by Alderman Gilmore. So we're going with option 2, and then part of that is considered in the budget. Okay, that'll go to budget, so nothing's getting lost or anything. I just want to be clear.
So through you, Madam Mayor, if that particular motion is a pass by council, giving staff direction that $1.8 million be included in the budget, that would give us direction, in particular would give our treasurer direction to include that in the budget for consideration. It would also show through the budget how staff recommend that it gets financed, how it gets paid for, whether it's a combination of using reserves, debentures, those types of things. So that would all come forward as a council package starting January 3rd for council consideration, and would give staff explicit direction to move forward with that direction.
Okay, so we've got that motion on the floor and the report to that. Are there any questions or comments? Alderman Hassels.
I guess my real concern is what are we looking for in this hall? I just because we got 1.8 million there, are we gonna make sure we hit that target, or are we just gonna make it sure it's a good functional hall for what we need it for? That's my concern with going with the 1.8. You give them that type of budget, yeah, they're just automatically 1.8 plus, so I'd rather see the implementation committee come back with what we are gonna have in that hall and see if it's what we really need in Wainfleet for a satellite hall. Because like I say, that hall seems like it would be a main hall.
Meredith would like to comment.
Through your worship, fellow council, we have an amending motion on the floor, and we need to vote on that before we bring in another amending motion. So, vote on the 1.8.
Yeah, it was just okay, so any further comments on the amendment to the report? All right, seeing none, I'm going to call the question. All those in favor? Opposed, if any? Okay, and that amendment is carried. So now we're going to go back to the balance of the report. So any further discussion on that? All right, seeing none, I will call the question. All those in favor? Opposed, if any? And that's carried. Okay. Let's go into correspondence. I'm embarrassed to say I'm still not used to this new correspondence. I was waiting for Meredith to read the resolution, and it's not because we're doing it individually. So we have a couple items here that we have to deal with. The first one being from the regional chair's office, looking for support about banning asbestos. So, so we're looking for a motion. You need a motion either way. Either to receive or, right, so either to receive it or to support it. So I am looking for a motion from council. Somebody. Moved by Alderman Conk to, yeah, I guess I should know what you're doing.
Through you, Madam Mayor, I move that we support this.
Okay. So if I can get a seconder, Alderman Gilmore. No discussion. I'll call the question on supporting banning asbestos. All those in favor? And that is carried. And then the next one was, this one was sent to me via email, and it was, this was a resolution being, or a proclamation, was it not? Sorry, I've got to look at this again. Oh, it's a resolution about the the stroke victims. So I don't know if we just want to receive this or it's supporting Bill 9, which states that all stroke victims receive care regardless of their age. So I don't know if we want to receive this for information or support it. I'd be looking for a motion from somebody. Moved by Alderman, we support. Okay, so seconder for that, Alderman Dykstra. So I will call the question. All those in favor? And that is carried. I apologize, this will get easier. It's my fault. And then we have a third piece of correspondence from the Recreation Master Plan Committee. So I was looking for a motion to just refer this to the budget. So if I can get someone to move that. Moved by Alderman Gilmer, seconded by Alderman Dykstra. All those in favor? And that is carried. And then our last one, and this one's a little bit late, but it's this one's the proclamation about Education Savings Week. The City of Welland requested by Smart Saver. So they're asking us to support the initiative and join the social media campaign. So I'm not even sure, to be honest. So, Alderman, you'll support it? All right. If Frank's doing it, I'm sure it's great. So I need a seconder for that, Alderman Gilmore, and I'll call the question. All those in favor, and that is carried. All right. So we muddled through that. So now we're into bylaws.
The following bylaw now be read a first, second, and finally passed on the 6th 26th day of December 2016. Bylaw number 85, 2016, being a bylaw to appoint a clerk and treasurer pursuant to section 228, subsection 1, and 286, subsection 1 of the Municipal Act 2001 as amended.
So I need a mover and a seconder for the bylaw, moved by Alderman Gilmore and seconded by Alderman Dykstra. I will call the question then. All those in favor, and that is carried. All right, so now we're into notices of motion. So I am going to ask Alderman Gilmore to come and assume the chair, and I'm going to make this motion and ask for council support, and then I will come back.
Mayor Jeff?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Okay, so I move that we request the Niagara Peninsula Conservation Authority consider obtaining an independent third-party audit, such as a value for money audit and/or forensic audit, above and beyond their annual financial audits.
Second. Alderman Fong, any discussion? I'll call the question, all those in favor? Carried.
Okay, thank you, Alderman Gilmer. That was fantastic, and I want to thank Alderman Kong for seconding that and council for supporting. So I will report back to you in, so that's the January board meeting. We'll be forwarding that to the MPCA, and then I'll be bringing that forward. And perhaps you'd like to attend if that's in the evening, I'll let you know. So any other notices of motion? Okay, seeing none, no proclamations. Any other business? Alderman Kong.
Through you, Madam Mayor. I'm sure all of us have received the email with regards to the fire master plan. And I'm sorry I'm beating up this drum all over again, but to be honest, I'm sick to death and tired of these complaints that don't ever seem to get looked after. And I mean, in my mind, this particular email references a couple of things that I think are probably health and safety related. So do we actually have, so is Mr. Gudgeon the health and safety officer for the fire department as well?
So through you, Madam Mayor, Lee is the health and safety officer for the entire organization. Fire in and of itself, as it relates to the organizational chart that you saw earlier, has a safety officer. And they also have a joint health and safety committee, so there's a couple of things at play. But yes, Mr. Gudgeon is the corporate health and safety officer.
Okay, so I've heard not just from this particular person, I've heard from several of them that we don't have phone for our trucks and haven't had phone for a couple of months. How can we send our firefighters to fight fires when they don't have the equipment to do it? That seems like a health and safety issue to me. So I guess my question is, I realize the chief has only been here just a short time, and I realize things take time to get in place, but when are we going to get these picky little things looked at?
Through you, Worship Alderman Cook, we actually had Jessica do a run for us, and got, I think, a dozen pails of foam last week, first of last week, was the end of the week before, so the foam seemed to be an ongoing issue. With regards to that, in reviewing our budget, apparently there was some foam that was purchased back in the early summer, but I can continue to go back through multiple years and see that foam seems to be an ongoing issue since about 2013.
Is there a reason for that? That you can guess that?
Obviously, that predates me significantly, but I think there has been some changes and some processes that regionally there's sort of been a regional cache that's been developed. So that's how it is accessed, from what I understand and what I've learned. We we've been able to do that, and then we get billed, we're able to go and pick it up, and then we get billed directly from the supplier. I can also let you know that over the course of the last week, we've had the mechanic in to do a significant number of pump repairs to our fleet that was tested back in the summer. And the foam inductor units are a significant problem. We're actually awaiting a significant amount of parts to complete a repair on one of those units. So they certainly are causing some longer term issues that we have to consider.
That seems to be the heart of this particular email. It's also been mentioned, and I know you and I talked about the self-same thing, the communications with the pagers not working, and are we getting any closer to getting that picky little issue fixed?
I don't know if we're getting closer to getting the issue fixed. I can tell you that we have been able to find in our supply a significant number of pagers, portable radios, and items that we have no particular information on. They're not tagged as being in service, out of service. We don't know whether they really work or not. We've actually had a number of items sent to the repair agency in St. Catharines. Some have been repaired and some have been returned. Some have been sent to Motorola. They continue to be under warranty, so they've been sent back to be repaired there. Some are being noted as being obsolete, so we're trying to work through what we have and update some of the pieces. Really, I can share with you that that's one of the items that you'll see brought forward with our budget that's coming forward.
So I guess that for my particular purposes of asking those questions is to be able to say that even though you have only been here a short period of time, you are working towards trying to get all of these picky little issues resolved, and that everybody needs to take a deep breath and step back and let you do your job.
And Alderman Cock, I'm just going to have the CAO comment.
So yeah, just through you, Madam Mayor, just further to that. So since we've actually had the arrival of our new treasurer, and I can certainly have had to do that, but just to put some things in context for council, we've actually reviewed the capital budget over the last 5 years. Over the last 5 years, $37,000 has been spent on the fire department. Okay? So $37,000 over the last 5 years. $33,000 of it was for the new truck for the fire chief. $4,000 of it was actually for a dry hydrant area pond, and there's been a little bit of work done to the rear access of Fire Station 4. In 2012, there was also 2 used tanker trucks purchased. So if you put it in perspective, part of the challenge is there hasn't actually been budget dollars either allocated to fire. So you will see in the upcoming budget, the senior strategic leadership team is actually through the fire chief. We've actually got a very thorough package for council to consider that will put some money in place and some financial planning to help address these issues on a go-forward basis.
So do you understand the trucks, the 2012?
I believe that that's what was approved through the budget process, but I don't think that two apparatus were actually replaced at that time.
Apologize, yeah, that's what I meant. Thank you for the clarification.
Yeah, sure.
Are we planning anything for the 150 this upcoming year?
Yeah, we're working on it. I've been approached from a couple different individuals, one being our good friend Janet Hodgkins, who always comes up with brilliant ideas and is looking for funding and all kinds of cool things. So she asked me, Dan Augustine asked me, a couple other people. So we actually had a meeting, Richard and Mike and I, and so maybe I'll hand it over to Mike. I know I think he may even have some questions for council, but we started talking about it.
Yes, sir, through you, madam. One of the things, we actually have capital budget completed from a staff perspective. We finished that up last week. in preparation for deliberations in 2017. As it relates to the operating budget, we're actually meeting most of the day Friday to firm up what the operating budget will look like to council. I can say that there will be a request or a consideration for council of about $25,000 of township money, of which we anticipate that we can use that to leverage through Mr. Nan's wonderful ability to get us other levels of funding. We'll be approaching the region, who I've talked to the area CAOs and their new CAO about the opportunity. We'll be also approaching, obviously, the federal and provincial government. We've also got a plan as part of our economic outreach to talk to some of the businesses in the community to see if there's a will to help sponsorships and those types of things. So council will see a package come forward in the new year.
Okay, any other business? No, just Alderman Conk? Okay, so now I will turn back to Meredith. And we'll look for a motion in a minute to go into closed session.
Okay, council now move into closed session to discuss item under section 239, subsection 2, subsection C of the Municipal Act 2001, potential disposition of land, Harborview Road. Item under section 239, subsection 2, subsection B of the Municipal Act 2001, personal matters about an identifiable individual. Item under section 239, subsection 2, subsection B of the Municipal Act 2001, personal matters about an identifiable individual, public committee applications, and adoption of the minutes of closed session meetings of council for November 15th and November 23rd, 2016.
Okay, so I need a mover and a seconder to go into closed session. Moved by Alderman Conk, seconded by Alderman Gilmore. All those in favor? That's carried. And we will be back if everybody wants to hang out. But I'm not sure how long we're going to be, so let you decide.